Hi, I'm Angel with fleecefun.com and allfreesewing.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make the chevron infinity scarf, a perfect springtime scarf that you'll love to wear. For this project, you will need the following.
You will need a printed out version of the free PDF pattern that's available on fleecefun.com, jersey ballpoint needle, 1/3 of a yard of jersey knit in color 1 and 1/2 a yard of jersey knit in color 2, thread, needle, scissors, sewing machine, rotary cutter, ruler, and mat.
Alright, once you have all those items, it's time to get started.
Print up the pattern. The pattern is to scale so no assembly is required. Be sure to wash and dry the jersey knit before you begin to cut and sew. With color 1, pink in the example, take the super duper keep your line straight helper, number 1, and set it on the folded cloth. Using the width as a guide, cut a strip of fabric the width of super duper helper 1. Place the helper at the bottom and the top of your ruler to help make sure that the line is straight. Cut 5 strips of cloth. The strips will be 2 inches wide by approximately 54 inches long. With color 2, brown in the example, take the super duper keep your line straight helper 2 and set it on the folded cloth. Using the width as a guide, cut a strip of fabric the width of super duper helper 2. Place the helper at the top and bottom of your ruler to make sure that your line is straight. Cut 5 strips of cloth. These strips will be approximately 3 inches wide by 54 inches long.
Great! Now it's time to start sewing.
Basically, you're going to build your own striped pattern, placing color 1, pink, on top of color 2, brown, so wrong side is sitting on top of right side. Have the fabric overlap 0.5 inches, 1/2 inch, pin it. Then top stitch about 1/4 inch away from the edge of color 1 for the whole length of the strip. Repeat this until all the strips are sewn together, so you're just going to keep overlapping the pink on top of the brown. One thing that I like to do is use contrasting thread to make the top stitching pop and a little more interesting.
Alright, now that you've done all that hard work and you have all of that nice and sewn together, it's time to cut it all up. Yeah, you heard me, it's time to cut it all up.
Using the amazing chevron maker and super duper line straightener 2, plus your ruler and rotary cutter, you are going to make the strips you need to make the chevron look. Place the amazing chevron maker on the bottom of the fabric line to line up the ruler with the angle of the triangle and cut. Then, using the height of super duper straightener 2, measure the width of the cut. See what I'm talking about in the example? Then, using the height of super duper straightener 2 to measure the width of the cut, and using the angle of the fabric again to make the strip of fabric. Cut 2 more strips at this angle. Now you're going to flip the triangle over, so now the words are facing down, they're touching the fabric. And you're going to cut 3 strips using the same method as we did before, using the straightener as the width and cutting it on an angle. Now there is no perfect method here. This is something that you're going to have to do some independent thinking on.
Laying out the scarf is difficult. It's kind of like a puzzle, so what you're going to have to do is take your pieces and just try to line it up so that it follows the pattern. I have no perfect method for this. This will take independent thinking on your part. Trust me, you can do it. Just give yourself plenty of space and lay it out like a puzzle. You might also need to cut off ends so it will line up perfectly, so it'll all fit. So be open to cutting things off if you need to, so it fits the pattern perfectly, just to make it all fit. You can do it.
Lay the whole thing out and try the strips in different places. It's kind of like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. Do you start to see the chevron pattern coming into place? Once you have your pattern laid out, your scarf will need to be assembled so it follows the pattern. First thing you're going to want to do is sew all of the long sections of the chevron together that you can. Sew right sides together using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Sew those sections together. Once those sections are sewn together, then you're going to want to keep adding the sections so the chevron pattern is continuous. So sew the next section together, and so you have one long strip of the chevron pattern in the end. You're going to add sections using that same top stitching method that you used to originally assemble the fabric.
Alright, now that you've matched up and sewn all those pieces together, it's time to sew the length of the scarf.
Alright, now that you've got each side lined up, you're going to pin each side of the scarf right sides together to make the chevron pattern. First, sew one side using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now you have one long tube, you're going to turn it right side out.
Great, now that you've turned it right side out, you're almost finished.
Alright, we're going to finish up the scarf now. Linking up the end of the scarf to the beginning, top stitch close what you can using the machine. Then, using a needle and thread, you're going to hand stitch the top to finish that, closing up that gap so you don't sew all the way through your scarf. Make sure that you're sewing only through the top layers and not all the way through to the other side of the scarf.
And you're finished. You have a great chevron scarf that works for fall, it works for spring. It is a great versatile scarf. If you like this pattern, I have a few more on my website, fleecefun.com, that you'll also enjoy. All my patterns and tutorials are free. You might also like the infinity bow wrap. Classy, fun, and if you make it out of minky, feels so good on your shoulders. You might also like the Saturday morning scarf, a different take on a fleece scarf with a great combination of fleece and jersey knit. You can't go wrong. Fleece Fun is also on Facebook and on Pinterest, so be sure to check us out there. Have a great day, and remember, velvet is pretentious. Fleece is fun.